Hello, I'm Micki Allen of Micki Allen Hypnosis and Coaching. Today I'm going to spend a little time with you explaining the fundamentals of hypnosis. You see, research has shown that if we take some time explaining the truth about hypnosis to our clients, their benefits will be much greater during their hypnotic sessions. I want to explain some terms and remove any misconceptions that perhaps Hollywood or stage hypnotists may have given you about hypnosis. You see, I do not view hypnosis as a form of entertainment. On the contrary, I use specific hypnotic techniques to help ordinary everyday people with ordinary everyday problems in their lives. I'll be covering 4 components of the mind. To begin, we'll start with the first 3 that most people are at least somewhat familiar with. We have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, as well as the unconscious mind. It's important to note that each component of the mind has its very own protective function, and even in the deepest level of hypnosis, you are always safe. The unconscious mind is really like your body's consciousness. It controls all of the things that we don't have to use our conscious mind to think about. Things like our heart beating, or our lungs breathing, or our body digesting our food. Medical professionals call this the autonomic nervous system. These are like the instincts that we're born with. The unconscious mind's ability to learn and change is limited. Now here's a fun fact about the unconscious mind. It can actually learn and change. You may recall back in high school learning about Pavlov's dogs and his experiments using a bell and a morsel of food to train the dogs to salivate. He showed that even though the act of salivating is controlled by the unconscious mind, an external stimulus could actually program the unconscious mind. So the conditioning that Dr. Pavlov used is called classical conditioning. And so the unconscious mind can learn through classical conditioning and also through hypnosis. Another interesting thing about our unconscious mind is that it generates how our emotions feel. For example, if you're happy, there are certain physical sensations that go along with happiness or joy. If you're sad or angry, then your body will feel a certain way. And because the unconscious mind generates the physical attributes of those emotions, we call them feelings. I'd like to point out that even in the deepest level of your mind, the unconscious level, you have a protective function. Your unconscious mind protects against infections and controls your reflexes. For example, if a ball was coming straight at your noggin, before you could even have time to think about it, your hands would raise to protect and cover your face. Whew, that was close. Your subconscious mind is amazing. It is where you store all of your beliefs, all of your habits of thinking and behavior, and it is where all of your life experiences are kept. When we're first born, our subconscious mind is basically empty. Psychologists call this state tabula rasa, which is a Latin phrase for blank slate. As you go through life, you begin to have experiences and build a vast database of information. Over time, those experiences and the information coagulate into beliefs and habits and behaviors. This allows you to have a consistent way of thinking and behaving. Basically, it's your personality that has been formed. So all of your thoughts and habits and beliefs being stored there is a good thing, because all of these life experiences have made you a very unique you. The problem comes when we've stored limiting beliefs that we know better than to believe. Now, it's good that we can become a consistent person. We act, people know how to respond around us, and that we have consistent beliefs that we hold true and dear to our hearts. The problem again arises when those are limiting thoughts or limiting beliefs or self-defeating thoughts and beliefs and behaviors. As you can imagine, after a lifetime of consistently behaving to certain circumstances or holding certain beliefs very strongly, the subconscious mind resists change. Now, this is good news and bad news. It's good because you'll behave consistently and you'll have a particular personality that's unique to you. It's bad when you want to make changes, unless you can have a protracted experience over time or unless hypnosis is used, because hypnosis can have an immediate effect on the subconscious mind. One of the things that's really cool about the subconscious mind is that it seems to have unlimited capacity. In fact, unless there is a trauma to the brain or a disease, you can always learn something new. And the information in that database of information is always accessible. That's how people, even in their most senior of years, can tell you about their childhood. And in hypnosis, it's very easy to access that information. That's why in court trials, it's sometimes used to uncover information about a crime. The subconscious mind also generates emotions. Based on your belief and experiences in the world, you respond to them in an emotional way. For example, if you believe a person should treat you in a particular way, and you perceive that they've treated you unfairly, your subconscious mind will generate the emotion of anger. As you'll recall, all layers of the mind have a protective function, and the subconscious mind protects against known dangers and motivates us to fulfill our needs. For example, if your subconscious mind recognizes a known danger, it's going to motivate or generate the emotion of fear. And that way you're motivated to do something, to take action, and to make sure you are safe. The conscious mind is the part of your mind that you're using right this very moment. You're using your conscious mind to focus on this video screen. The part of us that thinks is our conscious mind. It is the point of focus or focused attention. The conscious mind lives basically in the now. Of course, I could begin talking about the past, and your conscious mind would refocus and begin thinking about the past. Likewise, the future. For example, I could ask you how you plan to use hypnosis to change your life in the future, and your conscious mind would refocus and start thinking about the future. But the conscious mind is mostly what you're focusing on right now. The conscious mind is analytical and logical. It's kind of your problem-solving mechanism. It's your ability to assess a situation and use your experiences to come up with an answer. For example, if you're working out a mathematical problem, you're using the conscious mind. One of the interesting things about the conscious mind is that it is limited. As you recall, the subconscious mind is unlimited, but there's a lot of scientific research and psychological data that shows the conscious mind can only hold about 7 to 9 bits of information at any given time, which is likely the reason this is where we have our short-term memory. As you know by now, every single layer of the mind has a protective function, and the conscious mind is no different. The conscious mind protects against perceived danger, and it does that based on what's analytical and logical. Now, there is a fourth layer of the mind. The critical factor isn't something that most people need to concern themselves with, but it is a layer of the mind that is very important to hypnotists. As new information comes to you through the senses, it has to be acknowledged by the conscious mind and go through the critical factor before it can become a belief or habit in that vast database of information in the subconscious mind. You see, the critical factor loves the status quo. In fact, its protective function is to protect you against unnecessary change. Think of the critical factor as the doorman to a really fancy club or restaurant. If you're not on the list, you're not invited to stay. So the critical factor is basically a comparing mechanism. It compares new information to what's already stored as a belief or a habit or thought in your subconscious mind. And if it doesn't match that information, it may be there as information, but it doesn't become a belief or a habit of thought or behavior. The conscious mind, when it receives new information, is likely to say something like, because it's logical, analytical. It's going to think about it and process it. Whereas the critical factor, or the comparing mechanism, is more likely to say something like, Oh, really? Oh, yeah? We'll see about that. So if the new information that's coming in is something that the subconscious mind is already holding as a belief or a habit, then the information will easily come in and just reinforce what's already in there. But if it's new information that the subconscious mind isn't familiar with or is actually contrary to it, it's going to be really difficult for it to accept. Which is why it's so difficult for us to make big changes about our beliefs and in our habits. One analogy that some people find helpful is to consider the mind itself as a computer. The unconscious mind is like a computer's ROM, or read-only memory. That means it's not volatile. In other words, it keeps the contents or information whether the computer has power or not. When you very first get a computer home, you plug it in and turn it on, and it knows immediately how to boot. It just knows what to do. This is similar to us being born with our instincts. Whether we're awake and aware or not, our lungs will keep breathing and our heart will keep beating. The subconscious mind is like the hard drive on a computer. It's also non-volatile memory that permanently stores data. Basically, once experiences and information have entered in and been stored in the subconscious mind, they're there forever. This is why it can be helpful to consider the subconscious mind as the part that contains your long-term memory. The conscious mind is like a computer's RAM, or ready access memory. It's the part of the computer which temporarily carries software and files that are in current use. Remember earlier I said that our conscious mind lives in the now. So the data in RAM is volatile, meaning it stays there only as long as your computer is running. So if it's information that you want to keep, it needs to be saved onto your hard drive, or in the subconscious. As we learned earlier, the conscious mind can only hold 7 to 9 bits of information at any given time. That's why the conscious mind is best thought of as the ready access memory, or your short-term memory. Let's say you want to make changes for the better in your life. Well, we've already learned that because of the critical factor, our subconscious mind sometimes resists change, even change for the better. Anytime new information is introduced to us through the senses, remember it has to go through the critical factor before the subconscious mind will accept it. Now, you didn't become who you are overnight, right? It was a long series of life experiences that have reinforced who you are. And so if you hold limiting beliefs or destructive patterns of behavior that you want to get rid of, it's going to take a long time to change those habits and beliefs, unless there's a way to bypass that and work with the subconscious mind to change it for the better. And here is the good news for us. According to the U.S. government, hypnosis consists of two things: the bypass of the critical factor and the acceptance of acceptable selective thinking. That's right. Hypnosis allows you to bypass that critical factor in order to make the powerful, positive changes in your life that you want to make. The state of hypnosis is simply a deeply relaxed state where the client is more open to acceptable, positive information. Please don't fall asleep on your hypnotist. If you do, you'll miss the whole thing. Hypnosis is not sleep. If your hypnotist directs you to sleep, that simply means to close your eyes and go as deeply relaxed as quickly as you can, as if you were asleep. There are two ways that people go into hypnosis. The first is naturally and automatically. The second is with guided assistance from someone who's trained in hypnosis. One of the most common ways people find themselves naturally going into hypnosis is when they're driving. Have you ever pulled into your driveway and realized that you don't consciously remember driving all the way home? Well, that's likely because your subconscious had taken over and was making sure you arrived home safe and sound, while your conscious mind was busy daydreaming or thinking about something else. One naturally occurring state of hypnosis that we can sometimes find ourselves in is when we're so focused on watching a movie or reading a really good book and we start to cry. Now, we know that we're just reading a book, and our conscious mind knows that we're just watching a movie, but our subconscious doesn't know the difference. Now, here's a fun fact that a lot of people don't know. In naturally occurring states of hypnosis, deep levels of naturally occurring hypnosis, people can actually hallucinate. There are two kinds of hallucinations, positive and negative. A positive hallucination might be when we see something or hear something that isn't really there. Have you ever seen a book or a purse or maybe a set of keys on a desk, and then a few minutes later you go back to go get them and they're not there? You know you're the only person in the house, and you think, but I just saw it there. That is a positive hallucination. You saw something that wasn't there. A negative hallucination is when we might be looking right at something and not be able to see it. This is where we get the phrase, if it had been a snake, it would have bitten me. We can also not hear things that are really being said or done. My children are really good at this, especially when they're playing video games. I can be standing right next to them and talking to them and trying to have a conversation with them, and they have no idea that I'm standing there. Another one may be if you're sitting there and you're talking on the phone, and you have the phone right in your hand, but you're looking for your phone and you're looking for your phone. I'm going to have to let you go, Grandma. I can't find my phone. These types of negative hallucination occur when your conscious mind is in a relaxed state and focused on something else. Your subconscious mind has accepted the suggestion that the object is not there. Hypnosis is not prohibited by any of the world's major religious texts. Hypnosis does not lead to mind control. If at any time your hypnotist makes a suggestion that you heartily disagree with, you'll ignore it completely. And if it's something that is really, truly disturbing to you, you'll actually emerge from the hypnotic state. Hypnosis is not a truth serum. You're not going to suddenly have all of your skeletons start spilling out of your closet, and you're certainly not going to be spilling the tea, as my kids would say. And last, but certainly not least, people cannot get stuck in a state of hypnosis. Remember, it's a consensual act, a partnership, if you will, like a dance between you and your hypnotist. You are in control. You are asked only to follow their guidance. And if at any time you decide you don't want to, you can emerge. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about the truth of hypnosis with me today.